Welcome to another episode of the award-winning 5,000 Role Models TV show on MDC-TV. We are thrilled to be joined by our first guest, educator extraordinaire and 5,000 role model, Mr. Derek Negron. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Bright. It's a privilege to be here, sir.
Mr. Negron, you have an illustrious educational career and background. Can you fill our audience in on who Derek Negron is?
Sure. Well, first of all, again, thank you for allowing me to be here today. I think the very first thing that I would like for people to know about me outside of my role as an educator is that I was once a student in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and going through the public school system K through 12 and having sat in the seats that our children today sit in is always a humbling experience to be in this position. And as you may know already, as a 5,000 role model student, back then it was a 500 role model, and to be able to receive a scholarship to go to college, this is an opportunity daily as a mentor, and it's just hopefully a beacon of hope to young men. It's a privilege to be able to do that and to sit here in this seat. And my role now currently as an educator still continues, right? I've had the privilege to be not only a teacher, a school site administrator, but also now serving in a district administration role right now.
You mentioned that you grew up in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. What were some of the schools that you attended, and who were some of your biggest influences as you grew up?
I started at Parkview Middle School. Back then the area was known as Scott Lake. It's now Miami Gardens. And from there, I had an opportunity to go into a magnet program at North Day Center for Modern Languages. And then from there, actually another elementary school in Rainbow Park. I was really gifted and had a lot of experience with music. So my parents afforded me that opportunity to be a part of the expressive arts program there. And my middle school experience was at Norland Middle School, and I graduated from Norland Senior High School. So I've had pretty much different experiences in schools, but nevertheless in the same community, which is still dear to me this day.
So after Norland, what was your next step? Where did you go to college? What did you major in?
After Norland, I went to the great University of Miami, and my experience in college was kind of similar to a lot of students. You walk in college, you have an idea of what you want to do sometimes. It's always interesting how people say if you want to make God laugh, tell him what your plans are. And I think many are the plans of a man, but God's purpose always prevails. And I started out with exercise physiology as actually my degree in the School of Education, exercise physiology. However, my path to that point after leaving college, I remember going on an interview. My mom was an educator for over 30 years. It's in my DNA. And she said, I think you should try out teaching. And I said, well, I've seen you do that. I don't want to necessarily do that and follow your path. But sure enough, I remember getting ready to go to the interview. And the sense of peace that I had about what I was getting ready to do was an experience and a feeling that I had never had before. Didn't really understand it at that time, but I knew that I was doing the right thing at the right time. And that's a lot of our life success is about being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. And I think when those three things come together and it's a divine appointment, then you'll ultimately experience success.
So your teaching career began where? And what was your trajectory from there?
My teaching experience began at Barbara Hawkins Elementary under the leadership at that time of Evelyn Harrison. And she gave me an opportunity that, again, was just very humbling. She took a chance on me. I had no formal training in education or how to be a teacher. And she saw something in me and gave me an opportunity and trusted me with an opportunity to lead the kids in that school. And I just simply asked her, what is it that I can do to help? How can I help you in your journey to make this school better? And she said, I think I can really use help in this third grade classroom. And there were some issues with math deficiencies at the time. But nevertheless, that's where I started and went from there and taught fifth grade and became an instructional coach and an assistant principal all in the same school, which is kind of uncommon. But that experience about how to grow in an organization and build healthy relationships, because when you become the supervisor of the same people that started with you, they started before you, the dynamics of that can sometimes be a little sketchy. But however, I'm grateful that the relationships that we formed helped me to form my leadership capacity, and it had a lot to do with where I am today.
Black males are really underrepresented, especially in teacher roles. Why do you think that is, and what made you ultimately decide to not just get in, but stay in?
Great question. You're right. I was probably one of 2 or 3 men in the school and one of 2 black men that was in an instructional capacity, teaching capacity. And I think the question about that is, why do we have so few men, black men in education? It kind of reminds me of just the dynamics of the home, right? And I'm not exactly sure why, but I believe the role of an educator, as it may be very nurturing, I think women gravitate to that and they do an outstanding job, of course. But I do think there's an opportunity for men to be the person that is going to lead and guide students directly. And I stayed in education at some point I had to understand my why, right? Why am I doing this? And 2 things that really stood out. I felt that I had the opportunity to change the trajectory of students' lives, specifically black men, through education. And we know what the statistics are about education. Those that are educated, specifically black males, have a much greater chance of not being incarcerated or dead. So my responsibility was really to help to make that difference in the lives of young men. And to this day, I feel compelled to do so. I believe my calling, ultimately, my purpose in doing this is to build stronger relationships, build stronger communities. And through building those strong communities, I know that it's the student, one student at a time, that is going to be the next leader for our communities.
You would go on to become the assistant principal of the year for the entire district. Yeah. What was that process like? What do you attribute that to? And how did that lead to your transition to ultimately the principalship?
It was a great experience. I attribute, in just short, I attribute the Assistant Principal of the Year award to community. I believe when the community is really rallied behind a cause and you serve the community, the students, teachers, administrators, it doesn't matter what their role or title is, parents, community stakeholders, and everyone's rallied around a cause, it was an opportunity for the community to come together and to celebrate. So it really wasn't my award. It was more so the award of the community and what everybody did around me to serve to cause that to happen. As
we wrap up, what is the future hold? What do you see for the future of Derek Negron?
Well, as I tell my students, my very son, all right, the future is very bright. And I think the only thing that can stop a person that understands their God-given mandate is the person. And as I said, my purpose in life is to build strong communities through the vehicle of education. And of course, as opportunities open up, whatever that role or capacity is, I do intend to serve at the highest level because I know that's where the impact is being made. So I continue to desire to make myself available to be able to serve our community.
Well, I can say that you have provided an extremely high level of service, and one day you will continue to transcend even higher and higher and serve at even greater levels. And we thank you on behalf of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project for the tremendous example that you have been and the leadership that you have shown in our schools and in our community. Thank you.
No, thank you. The pleasure is mine.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
Welcome back to the 5,000 Role Model Show on MDC-TV. We are honored to be joined now by an extraordinary role model, Keith Smith, the founder of Wavelink. Thank you so much for joining us, Keith.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Bright. Appreciate it.
Keith, for the audience who may not know you, tell us about where you're from and what you're currently engaged in.
For sure. So I'm actually from Nashville, Tennessee. I came down to Miami, Florida in about 2017. Started at the University of Miami there. I was in the business school initially, realized that wasn't exactly what I wanted to be doing, switched over into advertising and communications, and I'm wrapping that up now. And in the meantime, what I've been doing is really being in the community, of the tech community rather, in Miami, as well as kind of globally because of the global nature of blockchain technology. So I've spent 2 years now working professionally with DeFi protocols, as well as actually businesses that consult in the space, helping people understand what blockchain is and basically creating business strategies around that. And so now, like I said, wrapping up school, I've been investing the entire time as well, so just looking to basically continue my work as I finish up there.
How would you describe what's going on right now in Miami and South Florida? Tech boom, crypto and blockchain capital burgeoning, developing here. How would you describe what's going on? Yeah,
it's been super interesting because I got here in 2017, like I said, and that was actually right around when blockchain took a very global stage as well. There was a huge craze about it. Everyone in colleges was going home around December and like talking to their parents about, hey, like, look at what's going on with these markets. And so I got here right when people were paying attention to the technology. And in 2018, we had the North American Bitcoin Conference, and I wasn't even there, but I saw exactly how many people were coming in town just to be around that energy. And that was in 2018. Today, it's 2022. We have the North American Bitcoin Conference going on right now, actually, and it's bigger than ever. And in reality, we've seen the growth of not only the technology now, right, because it's a global technology, but what happens is the way that these ecosystems develop is they actually do come back to these localities where you have people that are in a local area coming to meet up. And those become the people that continue to push those projects forward. And in Miami, we've definitely seen that across a broad range of different projects in the blockchain space, whether it's the institutional side, where banks are trying to get involved with the technology, or it's kind of the DeFi side, where there's a ton of developers that are just in the city. Anyone can participate, and so there's people that are in their basements, in their garages, that just have these incredible skills to develop these technologies that allow us to transact with one another. And since anyone can do it, you've got people in all of these little communities, micro communities, building up. You've got probably groups of people in Hialeah that are doing specific things, right, for their community. We've got people in Little Haiti, Captain Haiti. I don't know if you've heard about him yet and all the cool things he's doing, but he's spreading awareness in his community and building up communities and ecosystems there. So all across the city, and I've only been here for a few years, like I said, but I can see the growth, and I can see that it's happening rapidly because, like I said, a few years ago, no one even knew what this technology was. But to see so many people in Miami and coming to Miami and realizing and understanding the power of the technology has been mind-blowing.
Well, we see the power, we see what's coming, and it is incumbent upon us to be prepared for the economy of the future. And I'm thankful that you accompanied me last month as we really did a tour of some 5,000 role model chapters, and you presented to chapters at North Miami Beach Senior High School, William H. Turner Technical Arts Senior High School, Carroll City Senior High School, Hialeah Miami Lakes Senior High School, and American Senior High School. What was that experience like for you?
Well, first off, I want to thank you for inviting me on that tour. That was an incredible time, and I learned a lot. So really, I mean, what I took away from it was the fact that personally, I also haven't spent enough time around the city's youth. Because during that tour, what I realized is that there are a ton of extremely bright, talented young men and women that are in the city just ready, basically, for the next opportunity. And so it was really my eye-opening experience for me because what I saw, once again, was that there was kids there teaching me things throughout the day, whether it was about blockchain or whether it was about economics and finance in general. And, you know, I just was blown away by that. And I could tell that the program here at 5,000 Role Models has definitely been very intentional about building that type of a person. And so it's been very fun for me to learn that. And I'm ready to continue to meet with these people and teach these kids and learn, really, is what I'm here to do.
You know, that's one of the great things about the vehicle, the platform that the Congresswoman Wilson has created, the 5,000 role models, to be able to provide avenues for people like you who have such expertise to be able to pour back into our young people and help them in their preparation process. And we'll hear more about it when we return from the break, as Keith Smith, the founder of Wavelength, will break down blockchain, cryptocurrency, DeFi, all of these things coming right back. Stay tuned. It's going to be informational and inspirational.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
Welcome back. We're here with Keith Smith, the founder of Wavelength, who's going to give us an educational tutorial on blockchain technology, on cryptocurrency, because it's a foreign concept to many people. And let's start with, how does the history of money relate to where we are now with blockchain technology?
For sure. And so really, blockchain has been a manifestation of the reality that there hasn't been a lot of transparency around the way that the monetary system works today. And so when you look at basically the history of the Federal Reserve, right, if you go back to 1913, the Federal Reserve Act basically started what we see today as the money printer, right? Basically, the American institution that allows the government to basically take on more debt in order to fund its programs, all right? Now, what happened over time was that the Federal Reserve was always sort of a place where you actually reserved gold, right? So what you held there was gold in deposits in these vaults. Over time, countries around the world felt that using gold for trade and as a reserve asset was a little bit inefficient. So they started to kind of create notes that were representations of gold. And then those notes became fractionalized notes of gold. So now, instead of one note giving you 1 bar of gold, one note could get you 1/10 of a bar of gold. So that already started to begin the process of sort of devaluing the monetary unit of a dollar. And as we continued, we got to 1976 with another Bretton Woods Agreement, where we officially actually, as a globe, departed from the gold standard, rather. And when that happened, basically inflation is a tool that can be used to help keep the economy in check, right? So economists and Federal Reserve banks around the world are looking at inflation metrics to make sure that things aren't too expensive and that things aren't too cheap, so that businesses can continue to run the way that they're supposed to. The problem that happens when you have inflation of a currency that has basically no backing, and it's a pure fiat-based system, is what you call this, is you have no real base unit anymore. So now we have dollars that are in circulation and continuing to come into circulation without having any real base unit of measuring what those dollars are worth. And so Bitcoin was the first ever cryptocurrency. And it was created to address the fact that central banks around the world could print money that has no real unitary base other than whatever unit it's in, and has basically unilateral decision making from one person, 2 people, or a group, a committee that's in a room. Bitcoin is meant to address that. Blockchain is meant to address the fact that our monetary system is being controlled by a few different people or one small group of organizations, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be great for quick rapid decision making so that we don't have to go back and forth and think about things all the time. But what blockchain does is it allows everyone to participate in the consensus of our monetary and value system in real time. So the way that that changes everything is that if you look back through time, we've always used different sorts of tools for commerce. You know, we've always had tokens in a sense, or we've had ledgers in a sense, where we would write down in rocks, for instance, you know, who owned what in the village or in a city. And so blockchain is once again really just going back in history, taking these simple concepts of a ledger, a public ledger that everyone can now see and participate in, and bringing that into this new world of technology, so that now we actually can do this on a global scale, where anybody who is interested in participating in an economic system can actually join it by simply providing some sort of an economic resource like a computer, for instance, is what we see with Bitcoin and a lot of different blockchain protocols, is you can actually provide your computer's resources as a way to interact with and participate and earn rewards for being inside of this system. Whereas before, if you look at the monetary system today, outside of blockchain, there's no way for anyone to kind of just come into the system and plug in. You know, you have to go to a bank. You got to talk to a teller. You've got to talk to someone who's going to allow you to set up your bank account. And if you're someone who doesn't have residency in a certain place, maybe they won't give you that. Or if you don't have a business license, right, you can't get a business bank account. Whereas on the blockchain, there is no real prevention from you at least creating an account. There's definitely a lot of steps in between where you have to learn how to actually use the protocol and get your funding or your resources into that economic system. But at the end of the day, it's something that anyone can plug into now because all you need is an internet connection.
What are some of the advantages of engaging in this system for the everyday person?
It's a great question. I think a lot of times businesses are the main sort of focus of what's happening with this technology because that's where a lot of the money's going. But if you really look at the whole economic system, the end user now has more say than ever in how things move forward. And that is why blockchain and cryptocurrency is the future of economic policy. And it really is, in a sense, its own economic policy, where instead of there being a governmental system that has been laid out by others and that is being maintained by other people, there's simply an algorithm, basically, that actually understands that each and every individual has just as much say in the whole system as the people who are actually working the hardest to maintain it. And so it basically just re-incentivizes our economic structures, where the end user, once again, can participate and they can benefit from the system in ways that you could not before. By just being there, now you can win. Whereas before, you could go and set up a bank account and you could give a bank your money and they'll give you some of the profits that they make from their lending of that money, but you don't actually see those profits yourself. You only get whatever they're willing to give to you. In blockchain, everyone shares in the value creation system.
How can, as you speak about the end user and participation, how can, if I wanted to get involved today, how can I get involved?
So this is a great question because it seems very daunting most of the time. And I think there's three things that you can always do. The first is to invest, all right? You've got Coinbase, you've got Robinhood. There's a ton of new exchanges that are meant to really be intuitive. And now we can see that people from all around the world can easily interact with this technology the way that they would Merrill Lynch or maybe even just any other sort of an investment that you see. So that's the first thing. The second thing I recommend is actually understanding a little bit more and learning more about the technology so that you can run nodes. Running a node allows you to participate in that way that I said before, where you are literally participating in the consensus process, not only by providing resources to the network in the form of money or whatever, but actually in the form of security to these chains, which only works through these algorithms that you've built. I say the third way to participate would be to actually engage in just understanding and talking with leaders in your communities, because this technology is coming. And it's taking over not only our monetary system, but everything that we use to communicate as well. All of our values are being uploaded to the cloud, in a sense. And so if we're not proactive about talking to leaders in our cities, in our local communities, in our states, and at a federal level about what's happening, we really need to take the time to do that, because if we don't, we could see a world where we aren't as in control of the future as we are today.
What can we do as we close out to prepare ourselves now for what is to come with blockchain technology?
The most important thing is to be educated and to not look at these technologies with a blind eye. Don't turn a blind eye to what's happening, because there's economic benefit, there's political opportunity, and in reality, this, once again, is a technology that will continue to permeate throughout the globe, whether or not people accept it individually. It's an awakening sort of a process. So it's super important to get the tech and get how it affects our laws, and to understand how it's going to affect our society holistically moving forward.
The brilliant 5,000 role model Keith Smith talking about the future of our economic system and blockchain technology. We are 5,000. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
If you want to get involved with the nation's premier dropout prevention and mentorship program, the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project, give us a call at 305-995-2451, extension 2, or visit www.5000rolemodels.com. We hope that you get involved with the 5,000 Role Models. Until next time.